Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Warren County Election Board meeting. The minutes from May 12th before you. Any comments, corrections? If not, could I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of May 12th.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. No old business. New business. Only one item, and that is moving Freehold Township polling location. With that, I'll turn it over to Election Director Lisa.
All right, so we'd like to move the Freehold Township polling place from the Freehold Township building to the Reservoir Fire Hall. It's more in the outlying part of Freehold, but it's still within Freehold. And it's like a 5-minute drive from the current polling place to the fire hall. I did, after I sent an email to you guys yesterday, Ben had suggested I call Jeanette Fuller, so I called her this morning. And then Wanda Smith, her daughter, called me. And apparently they had discussed it at last month's meeting, so they're good with it. They're good with, using your fire hall as a polling place. I explained a few things to Wanda, our needs and what, like the accessibility into the polling place for the maintenance people to deliver machines and the poll workers. She is going to talk to the trustees about possibly getting a key for the maintenance department so that nobody has to, be there to let them in on Mondays or Wednesdays, and then possibly letting the one poll worker have a key, and then, to at least get in on Tuesday morning, and they would pick up the key from her on Tuesday after the polls close. But they're all for it. They voted on it at their last meeting, and it's going to be in their social hall, not like their truck bay or anything like that. So that's about it. I mean, they're all for it. I have set up a walkthrough for September 10th at 10 a.m. And that's just for me and Crystal to go down and just, walk through the place. And I have an accessibility form that I have to fill out for the Department of State that, that's handicap accessible and all that. So I would do that day. But they were all for it. They're good with it. And, talking to the one township supervisor, they don't care one way or the other if they're polling places there or, in their building or not in their building. So.
I know previously we had an agreement before us that we voted on to change the Warren South polling location. I assume you just want authorization to go ahead and enter into that with Wrightsville Fire Department.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's something that Daniel will do.
Sure, you could draft it.
Agreement and then, So, but like I said, we have it all set up for September 10th to go down to the walkthrough, so.
Okay. So the requested motion then would be to authorize the election board to enter into an agreement with Wrightsville Fire Department for election day polling place. I hear that motion.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else you wanted to raise?
Nope.
I had a couple things I wanted to comment on. Ken, of course, the director of EMA and Ms. Parole, and I went down to a tabletop exercise put on by PEMA and the Department of State. This was most of the day yesterday. Listening to the other counties, our group was paired with Delaware, Philadelphia, Elk, and Lackawanna maybe. So listening to some of the bigger counties, it sounds like we don't have a lot of the concerns they do. And in fact, when it comes to election security, I walked away feeling pretty good, very good really, about, and very secure about the election integrity of our process. My only concerns and the opportunities for improvements that came out of it had to do with our reaction to misinformation and public information that's been misstated, and our reaction to things like protests and that sort of thing. It sounds like those counties have had to deal with it. They had plans in places and such. I was more concerned about their integrity and security, but when it came to our side, I was thinking there are things that we can improve on. One was mass communications amongst all the poll workers if something were to happen. In the fire services, for instance, we can all get on the same channel and listen to each other no matter if the incident's happening in Russell or Spring Creek. It would be nice to have that kind of a mass text capability or mass call capability to all poll workers or all municipal leaders or all law enforcement or everybody involved in the entire election system. So Ken is already getting a quote for, forgive me, what was the
generic term is reverse 911. There are multiple different vendors that provide that type of service.
So we have previously had reverse 911, and I believe it was task force funded.
Task force funded, and those funds just aren't there anymore.
So I'd like to get a quote on what it would cost to do something like that. Multiple uses, ARPA eligible. It's one of the things we found during COVID was we really wanted a reverse 911 capability to blast that information, whether it to be all county employees and phone tree or all nursing facilities, all name your group. And this could, elections related things could just be a component of that. So, with a quick dial into a number, state something, and then it blasts out to all poll workers, all law enforcement, whatever your groups are.
What is the vehicle that's used for that, like a cell phone?
You can do it from anything with an internet connection.
Okay.
It all depends on which vendor you select, and what packages you select.
Okay.
You just plug in a database of numbers and then it sends.
Just groups them, and then you select a group.
Yep.
Or in an urgent situation, draw on a map who you want to notify on a map, and it would hit all the phones within that.
The last time I remember us actually using it for 911 purposes was a gas leak or something in the Tidiute area. I think I literally remember just drawing a circle around the area saying, send out a message that says stay in your homes.
Correct.
So again, multi-use. We'll come back with a quote, but it kind of reminded me. And then the other thing would be just getting some policies and procedures in place regarding at what point do we trigger a public information officer or stand up some sort of a joint information center related to an election. What do you do with malinformation, misinformation, that sort of thing? Is there somebody that's watching social media or not? At what point? Are they engaging? Are they not engaging? That kind of thing. And then one of the ideas that came out was having some poll workers, maybe the judge of elections, go through de-escalation training, something that law enforcement often goes through. But what I was hearing in some of the other municipalities was very angry people that were starting to get physical. And of course, at that point, you could call in law enforcement, but otherwise they're not supposed to even be in there. So like, what kind of training and tools can we give the poll workers so that they can help de-escalate the situation before it gets to that point? So I think that was the main stuff would be really taking up think through, maybe even do our own little internal table talk exercise before, at least federal elections probably, in order to think through, if protests happen here, who do we call, that kind of thing. Overall, I'd say it was one of the better tabletop exercises that I've been to in a while. Pretty helpful. The other stuff was really related to phishing, internet security, etc. It sounded kind of like, Bill Gallagher on steroids in a suit from the federal government. So, nothing that we're unfamiliar with.
Commissioner, if I could, it was just refreshing to know that some of the things that we did on our own prior to this last election were things that they pointed out that needed to be done. We helped training with law enforcement on counter protest and just tabletop exercise.
Yeah, I really felt decently prepared. We took all the right steps. Again, it's just, I think, documenting some of that so that we don't have to refigure it out every couple of years. Anything else for election?
Thank you.
All right. And I ask for motion to adjourn the election board meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We're adjourned. I'd like to call the commissioners meeting to order. May everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting is being recorded. Anything said in the meeting will become part of public record. Since the last meeting, the board has not met in executive session, we can recall. Correspondence-wise, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency sent us the combined report for 2020 reporting related to 911. There were no findings, and we expended the funds. So thank you to Ken and Gail for their fine work, as well as at least Riley. This time I'd ask if there's any public comment. Seeing none. You see the agenda before us today, minutes from June 23rd. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, moving on to the finance report.
Yesterday we had $1,815,913 in both of our bank accounts. You can see how that is laid out. I also sent you budget to actuals Monday for your review at some point in discussion. We are borrowing $750,000 from the TN. The paper looks to be signed today, so we will have borrowed $2 million in the next few days. The ERAP funding, there was another drop in the EOC, so that's good. Means the money's being used, I hope. And the American Rescue funds are still sitting there, of course. And we're working on reporting requirements for that. Any questions?
So we're flat to last year as it relates to the money from the TAN.
Yes, with the exception of we did take $500,000 from the savings account.
Oh, okay. See that? It's a little further behind that. It's also a week later too.
Well, the other thing is that previously there were many payments that were held at the end of the year and some other things, so I'm assuming that's changed a little bit.
Got it.
Yeah. I've talked to you guys about the pooled cash report. We have 2 more accounts to work on in pooled cash, and then we filled that with the big report to also give you so you can see what money are earmarked for programs.
Great. Sounds good.
Any questions? Moving on to HR report.
Human Resources Report for July 1st, 2021. New hires for Warren County. Marcia Hansen, effective date 6/21/2021, hired as the administrative assistant in the tax claim office for an annual rate of $25,025. Total compensation package $49,979.61. Jackie Sherwood was hired as a court reporter in the Court of Common Pleas effective June 28th, 2021. Annual rate of $50,000 per year. Total compensation is $77,864.20. Benjamin O'Neill was hired as an EI caseworker 2 at Human Services effective June 29th, 2021. Annual amount of $35,509.50 for a total compensation package of $61,685.56. Changes for Warren County. Shane Jameson on June 14th, 2021 went from a part-time corrections officer to a full-time corrections officer. Total compensation package remaining at $55,503.83. Sean Speck moved from a GIS technician to a field assessor 1 in the tax assessment office effective June 22nd, 2021. Annual rate of $31,200. Total compensation of $56,874. Separations for Warren County. Amber Kniff, effective June 1st, 2021. She was an EI caseworker at Human Services, not pension eligible. Christopher Ryan, part-time 911 telecommunicator at Public Safety, effective 6/1, not eligible for pension. chair and bench, children and youth supervisor and human services effective June 10th, not pension eligible. Tara Darts, field assessor 2 in the tax assessment office, effective June 22nd, 2021, not pension eligible. And finally, Anthony Shimenti, corrections officer in the jail, effective June 22nd, 2021, also not pension eligible.
Thank you. Any questions? Next, you'll find department reports. Just a couple of things I think to highlight. Public Safety's report regarding aging. I believe one of them would like to meet with you, Tricia, to see if there is any way we could find a way to collaborate between the broadband initiative and aging on St. Towers, so
Okay.
that we could essentially be using ARPA funds for a dual reason. And grants, the federal, which program is decreasing $40,000?
The EMPG over the 3-year period.
So EMPG is expected over the next 3 years to
Correct.
decrease $40,000, which is very significant to that budget. Saw the lowest return on tax claim mailings ever. Assume, Lisa, anything that you wanted to know you would have noted in the election meeting?
Yep. A lot of new projects completed. Good job.
Those are yearly letters that we have to send out.
Party.
Planning and zoning, of course, working on the comprehensive plan, that's worth noting. That's it for today. All right, and then there's one proclamation on the agenda today, and that is for pretrial probation and parole supervision. Normally they come in a slew, but I happened to pass them. They were at an incident when I passed by them today.
Oh, really?
So. I think-
All of them.
most of the departments seem to be there roving around this house, so.
Okay. All right.
I would expect that's why no one's here. So pretrial probation and parole supervision week is July 18th through the 24th. Whereas pretrial probation and parole officers, agents, are dedicated employees who are charged with the duty of helping to preserve the safety of the citizens of Pennsylvania by maintaining contact with parolees, supervising their behavior, ensuring their strict adherence to mandated conditions, including appearance in court and assuring appropriate interventions for noncompliance of probation and parole conditions. And whereas pretrial probation and parole officers and agents provide both supervision and counseling to parolees and operate to uphold the law and safeguard the public from criminal activity during a parolee's transition from incarceration to the community. And whereas probation, parole, and pretrial officers and agents work toward changing lives by working with parolees to help them find solutions to problems and to help them live a safe, healthy, and productive life. Whereas pretrial, probation, and parole officers and agents are an essential part of the justice system and uphold the law with dignity while recognizing the right of the public to be safeguarded from criminal activity and protecting the victims of crimes. And whereas pretrial probation and parole officers and agents work collectively with law enforcement, treatment providers, social service agencies, and a variety of other programs, groups, and individuals involved in parolees. And whereas pretrial probation and parole officers and agents promote prevention, intervention, and advocacy. And whereas pretrial probation and parole supervision week is a time to recognize and celebrate the dedicated and caring individuals in the community who work tirelessly to make neighborhoods safer and more vibrant places to live and raise families, and work to give parolees a second chance and to be productive members of society. Therefore, the Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of July 18th to the 24th of 2021 as pretrial probation and parole supervision week. We encourage all citizens to honor their probation, parole, and officers and agents and community corrections professionals to recognize their crucial roles in the community and in the criminal justice system and for their achievements towards a safer community. Comments? Very good. This time I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have 2 bids on the agenda, but we're not going to award them, correct? Okay. So moving on, there is an addendum to our existing agreement with Jail Nick and Associates before us, and the prime sponsor of that is Lisa Hagberg. So would you please tell us the background?
We are working on a cultural transformation at Human Services, so I'm asking you to approve the agreement for the work that we're going to do there over a 6-month period. That will be $5,000 a month. We have worked with the financial representatives at Human Services to make sure that it's covered and we have that handled. And then we're also adding in a handbook update for the entire county for $2,500.
Good. Any questions?
Have the funds for that?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the amended agreement with Jail Nick, dated June
Oh.
15th.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Just look forward to getting this going. I think that having additional HR help and people looking and kind of making sure that everything comes up to industry standard across the board, I think is a really good thing. So I'm very excited to work with them.
Oh, does this include the work on the HR policies? It does include that. Very good. Well, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have 2 repository tax bids. Let's see, Sierra Hotel 002-8250-200-001, currently owned by Ruth Canavan, in Cherry Township at 120 Farmhouse Lane, assessed at $8,314, bid on by Donald Dunbar for $500. Might as well take them together. The second one is Whiskey November 575-511-500-000, currently owned by P&J Apartments in the city of Warren at 514 West 5th, assessed at $2,375. Okay. Bid on by Josh Spice as agent for Joshua Tree and Associates. Bid on for $1,000. Any questions? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the 2 tax bids?
I will make a motion to approve both of these tax bids.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. You heard the motion. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have our annual approval of the Maximus cost allocation agreement. We first entered into this probably 3 years ago,
Yeah, I mean officially like 2 years ago, but something like that.
more or less at the time mandated, but it's turned out to be, I think, a very great partnership. We've certainly recouped a lot of funds through it, and appreciate their work. Did you want to say anything more?
It's a 3-year agreement, for $7,500 a year. They did not change the price from the previous 3 years.
Good. Well, do you need it? That's a good price. So do I hear a motion to approve it?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consulting agreement with Joni Smithley. This is essentially the same agreement that we had in place during the pandemic, but through a little research found that our consulting agreement with her expired with the expiration or shortly thereafter of the emergency declaration. I had just signed that in a state of emergency, disclosed that, but in order to have her continue to work, we needed to bring it before the board for a full vote since we're no longer in a disaster declaration. Ken, I know you wanted to say something about the agreement. Did you want to to add to that?
Sure. So most of the department heads had the opportunity to work with Joni. She's been a real asset to the Department of Public Safety and several of the other courthouse departments. So COVID really exposed some of the weaknesses and some of the weaknesses of the EMS system. And Joni, when we did that 1099 contract, was not only to cover COVID nursing, but also to help with coordination of training and certification for our EMS folks. And I'd just like your support to continue to have that agreement with her.
I think she's uniquely placed in order to do that scope of work, having worked through the pandemic with so many different entities. She's got the relationships and obviously the skill set to work in public safety and specifically EMS, so I'm very pleased to support it. By the way, CARES Act paid for everything that previously she did, and it seems certainly eligible for ARPA funds going forward. Any questions?
Here, I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the consulting agreement for Joni Smitley, remaining in effect until the end of the year, until the end of December 2022.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
I think that Joni's done a really amazing job and was a huge help, and I think that there's still a lot for her to do. I would disagree with Ken in the sense that I don't believe that his department or what he's doing really has any weaknesses. There's just less strong areas, and Joni certainly addresses some of the less strong areas and makes them more strong. So I think that her work is really needed.
I mean, ironclad over there.
All right, hearing nothing else, all those in favor of the amended agreement with Joni Smitley, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, resolution 3,184, which has to do with the USDA bond series, which has been a topic of issue for 2 years now. This, I believe, will be the last resolution, correct?
Correct.
We will be able to sign and close the USDA loan
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Well, we really have to talk about that, to be honest. Something else.
The only question is, are we getting Nathaniel cake or avocado?
Wow, that's what I'm saying.
Avocado cake.
Avocado cake, that sounds disgusting. All right, Lisa, did you want to add anything? All right, could I have a motion to approve resolution 3,184?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Yeah. All right, and lastly on the agenda, approval of the Human Services Block Grant Plan. For that, I assume I will be turning it over to Monica.
Yes, so thank you. I appreciate you putting me last on the agenda, so we're held up because of me.
You're welcome.
So I will keep it short and talk fast, which I do anyway. So this is our annual plan that's required by the state that we have to submit for human services, and it requires the I say permission, but the approval of the Warren County Commissioners. So last year's priorities that we focused on included administrative case management, which is a lesser service that we did not have previously in the county, but we have been able to scoop up a very large portion of individuals that have been on waiting lists, that have been sitting around needing something to provide assistance to them, to guide them towards referral sources or areas of need that they have that they maybe not have known that they needed. So this is an area that we are going to continue to offer. It's not necessarily identified as a priority, quote unquote, within the plan, but it's still in the plan that we will focus on. We do offer it to both children and adults, but we have not had any children to date that we've provided the service to, but it's still a level of service that we will be providing. So one of the other priorities that we had identified or termed the Adult Care Coordination Team, or ACT, if you will. We like our acronyms, everyone knows that. And essentially this was a less formal way for people to come to the table to talk about individuals of high risk, whatever those risks might be as far as inpatient stays at our local psychiatric units or heading towards crisis, any way that we could head off those types of high-risk folks heading towards need for further intervention. So that was a priority of last year. This year, we've kind of taken that ACT team and changed it into a less formal coordination teams because we found that there were 9 monthly meetings or weekly meetings that were occurring between other county programs, juvenile probation, adult probation, the jail, children and youth services, intellectual disabilities that were happening very regularly, again, to focus on these high-risk folks that needed intervention quickly. So we took it away from this adult care coordination team and we're renaming it coordination teams less formally. When we sat down and looked at the number of meetings we were having, we were kind of stunned at the amount of interactions we were having with all these programs and all these providers in order to serve the folks that we have identified as high risk. So our priorities this year include that coordination team effort, which will continue. We are focusing on a mobile crisis service. I've talked about this for 3 years. It's hopefully coming to fruition this fall. We were thrown a curveball because they increased their budget by $70,000. So I'm actually meeting with fiscal this afternoon to look at that budget again. But that's still a priority in hopes of decreasing the number of inpatients and also the number of admissions to Warren State Hospital. And lastly, one of our priorities is transportation, helping those folks that need transportation to places they cannot get to continues to be a focus. So those are our priorities this year. Included in the Human Services Block Grant Plan is a small funding stream called the Human Services Development Fund, or HSDF. So it's a small amount of funding that Warren County receives that we fund Mom's Meals, which used to be called Meals on Wheels, for shut-ins that meet our eligibility criteria. We serve a large number of folks with that. We will continue that effort. We are continuing our life skills training for adults that need those in-home skills that they may not have acquired growing up or after leaving their parents' home. And we also will continue to fund what we call housing assistance for those that are in dangerous situations because of non-payment of rent and or utilities, danger of becoming homeless or losing their home. So we will continue to focus on that through that small funding stream, Human Services Development Fund. That is the plan in a nutshell. It's a 70-page document. It's still in draft. It's with the fiscal department right now. I will be sharing that when it's complete. It is due July 26th. So I ask your approval of that document.
Make a motion to approve the Human Services Block Grant.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Thank you for a great presentation. Appreciate all the detail. Makes us feel a little bit less like we're rubber stamping it.
A little bit like
I tried. You'll have the document before it's actually submitted should you have suggestions.
Okay.
And I think
Right.
that the discussion over crisis intervention service is really important. We've had that discussion at the Human Services, or the Behavioral Health Task Force at CCAP a lot. And I think that if that could get up and running, it would be a huge asset to kind of channel a lot of people with better outcomes than just kind of just getting kind of dealt with or pushed aside. So great idea.
You heard the motion. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Commissioner comment-wise, just have a few quick things. we've had further meetings with the Northwest Commission, PJ Wendell, County Executive from Chautauqua, Erie County Representatives Ashtabula, Mercer, and Venango regarding a regional economic development summit. We're shooting for early October to have that event, and it will probably be at Penn State Barron. I'll get you more details as they come. But the idea is to have a summit with economic development and municipal government leadership in order to talk about themes, if you would, for the region. And what I would like to lead ultimately would have something akin to our COG, except on a multi-county region, including at least Ashtabula, Chautauqua, and those of us in Northwest Pennsylvania. I'm not aware of anyone else doing that kind of thing across state borders like that, but many other regions, such as the Buffalo area, the Rochester area, Akron area, etc., are to do something like that. I take that back. I have seen one model, and that was the Youngstown, Ohio region, which extends into the Mercer-Lawrence County, Pennsylvania region. So. Anyway, more to come on that. I've invited a representative from the Game Commission to come to one of our future work sessions. Pam's working on making that happen regarding the chronic wasting disease instance in Warren County. Penn State Extension and I are working a little bit with a farm, the Sajak Farm, to possibly make it into an agro-tourism place. I'm not sure, it's very much in the concept phase at this point, but happy to meet with them. I've had a bunch of EMS meetings. I wouldn't say that there's anything besides the big event where Jerry Ozog spoke. I think I already updated you all on that. Working on a bunch of policies and procedures with various departments, including some with the Sheriff's Office and the courts, which would be very encouraging. Finally, I'll be in DC for probably 2.5 days next week for a training, so I'll be out of the office for a significant portion of the week. Any updates?
Same old here.
Dates?
Just,
Okay.
a lot of stuff in, I think,